Welcome to Mind Your Language and Your Business, the podcast where communication means business. We sit down with bold brands and brilliant minds to explore how language, culture, and connection drive strategic success in today's global marketplace. From translation tips to real-world wins, if it speaks to your business, we're talking about it. Let's dive in. Welcome, Micah, to Mind Your Language and Your Business podcast. You are the founder and owner of Fluency Corp.
Correct.
Tell us a little bit about what you guys do.
Yeah, absolutely. We put together customized language programs for multilingual corporations. So anywhere in the world, it could be online or in person for any language.
Any language. And you actually told me, so you teach languages.
That's exactly it. We get companies from where they are to a higher level of communication in the non-native languages that employees are having to communicate in. It's anywhere in the world, in person or online. So before COVID, it was 95% in person globally. And now it's flipped because people realized they thought that the progress would be less in an online conversation class, but I always tell people, you just can't shake the teacher's hand. That's really the only difference. Private classes, groups are different, but for one-on-one, this is incredibly effective for increasing fluency.
COVID taught us some things, didn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
I could not sell an online class to save my life before COVID, even though I have gotten to a very nice level of Japanese, and it's only been online. So, yes.
So what inspired you to get this business started? Tell me a little bit about that. Was it an event or a personal experience? Did you wake up one morning and think, I want to teach employees worldwide languages? What was it?
Definitely not the last one. Never ever occurred to me. Like so many entrepreneurs, I just thought there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. I took traditional Spanish classes all throughout high school, the AP exam, college, did the study abroad, the whole thing. And then I took a job in Mexico and I realized what was lacking from all of that academic learning was usage.
Mm-hmm.
Actually using it. As a student, you're just doing what they say, right? You don't even realize, oh, this is not going to get me to what my desire is, which is
Right.
total just confidence and clarity speaking in Spanish, right?
Mm-hmm.
You think you
Mm-hmm.
have to do the grammar and the vocab tests and the fill in the blanks and the reading. But guess what? Watching tennis on TV does not make you a good tennis player.
Why should it work for language, right?
Yeah.
So,
To answer your question, I came back to the US and I got my first clients at Samsung. And I just said, what do you need to learn? And then
Mhm.
it's practice. The meetings you have coming up, whether it's marketing, whether it's an accounting meeting, whatever it is, let's do that again and again.
What I'm hearing is that you are able, so obviously you teach some language curriculum, right? But you're able to tailor it to someone's actual job. So if someone works for a global corporation and let's say their job is in marketing, you're able to help them with the terminology and with the linguistic skills that they need in order to perform in their job.
Yes, we have a saying that's we want you to be able to walk out of the class and instantly use what you have learned because we want to make use of every minute and it has to be incredibly valuable.
Mm-hmm. That is fantastic. So let me ask you this. You know what we do. We do language translation, and we also now offer bilingual proficiency assessments because we discovered that the companies that are our clients who have multilingual employees will put out a job application and it has a box on it to check or not check that says, are you bilingual in Spanish or whatever other
Mhm.
language that they need, right? And there are so many different shades of bilingual,
So many.
right? And I don't know if it's your experience, but in our experience, people tend to overestimate their bilingual skill. So they will check the box, I am bilingual, even though they've taken 10 lessons on Duolingo and they don't have a good understanding of what bilingual truly means, but they want the job. So,
Yeah.
what we do is we assess their ability to see where they really are. And I'm assuming that before you enroll somebody in your classes, you also need to do something like that, right? How do you figure out where people are and where you need to start?
So it depends on the goals of the company. Companies are less worried about levels and how did they do in the meeting yesterday?
Right. Right.
Going up on a CEFR level does not necessarily always equate to being able to do well in that marketing meeting.
Right.
And
Right.
so we do an assessment to what are their goals? What do they need to get better at? And then
Mhm.
get feedback on whether they are getting better at that from
Mhm.
supervisors. So from the
Mhm.
person watching them in the meetings. Now,
Mhm.
there's so many different types of clients. So if you have a different client where we have a warehouse of 100 people, we do an official assessment. We put them in the groups according to their levels and then move them through the levels of fluency for those. But in
Mhm.
terms of safety, giving instructions, and giving feedback. So
Mhm.
it really depends on the goals. But we do
Mhm.
assess, but depending on the goals of the client.
Right. And I know I asked you the other day, and it actually surprised me because I always had Micah in the category of foreign language teaching. But you told me that actually most of what you teach is English as a second language,
Which is the
correct?
foreign language of the client. Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah, understood. So, can you share some examples of what type of an impact can an employer expect when they use your services and you put their employees through your training? I can imagine there are big things like understanding safety instructions,
Yeah.
for example, if someone has manual labor employees on the floor in a manufacturing plant or out in a field somewhere. We are in oil and gas country, right? But can you share some examples of what kind of an impact you see from the employers that you work with?
I'll share three examples. So, we work with a lot of people who are relocating their talent to new countries. We had a dad,
Mhm,
mom, and child move from Argentina to Canada, and they set up the spouse and the child with English assistants, 100 hours
mm,
each. And afterwards, we talked with the family, and you know, the spouse was able to go out into the world and get everything done for her household.
mm.
And the daughter, instead of just, oh, I have to learn this new language, through the coaching, fell in love with some literature in English. And
Oh,
so
wow.
then fell in love with English, which is what happens. And so if they're
Mhm,
successful, then the employee is able to work more successfully. So that's why companies really, really like to do that. Now, with the
mhm,
blue collar workforce, maybe it's a warehouse or a factory. Yes, they're doing it for a few reasons. Safety is the number one. So they report having
mhm,
less safety issues. And one of the other things is just overall engagement between the two staff. Imagine you have the Spanish only speaking staff and the English only speaking staff, and there's just this awkwardness all day long of they can't relate to each other. And so
mhm,
people saying, how what a joy it is to go to work now and being able to get to know their employees. for the very first
Mhm,
time. So employees
mhm,
improving English and then the supervisors improving their Spanish. So it's going both ways. And so
mhm.
employee engagement, retention, being able to make a pathway for people to bilingual positions.
Culture, right? Cultural impact.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that I appreciate the most when our customers share that with us, that once they sort of change how they look at things and they open up their mind to the other language and the other culture that
Mhm.
is under the same roof with them, working hard every day, and they learn another language and they help the employees learn English, how much of an impact it has on their culture and how everyone feels better going to work.
Yes, and that's why people stay. It's very hard to track, right, and measure, but people
Yeah.
stay for the people they work with.
It is hard to measure. You have someone who just never even thought of tapping that community that might be around the corner but speaks another language. But you know what? Now we have labor shortages, right? Especially in manual labor positions.
Yeah.
There's just not enough people. Well, they might be around the corner. And they might be perfectly qualified for the work that someone needs done. But unless we put the ad out there in Spanish or figure out how to reach out to them, they might not even know that we exist and that we're trying to hire, right? So it's a shift, truly. Um, Do companies sometimes have any kind of misconceptions about what language training can do for them? Or let me ask it differently also. What kind of a client education do you need to do in order to get everybody on the same page about what's happening?
The expectations of how much they can learn in a certain number of hours.
That's the number one misconception.
Yes, I think the fluent in 3 months ads that we might often see out
Mm-hmm.
there that have been around for decades, really, that has really, you know, it made it very hard for people to realize what is involved in getting to fluent in another
Hmm.
language. If it took us all 26 hours, we'd all speak 30 languages, right? That's easy.
Absolutely.
And so what I try to tell them is, yes, to get to a high working level from someone, Spanish to English, it's about 600 practice hours speaking. And then they just they want to hang up on me, right? But I
Right,
tell them,
right, right.
we're not trying to teach them everything. We're trying to teach them safety, understanding instructions, and how to use this machinery. Or the higher up levels understand it a little bit more because they've maybe already at a B2 level, which is a high intermediate level. And so they've already gone through all of those other levels and completely understand that every level is about 150 hours and they're committed. But those just trying this for the first time, we have a lot of graphs and education showing them the steps getting to where they want their employees, how to get to the place where they want their employees to be.
Hmm.
And just take a little tiny step, we remind them. Let's fix the
We'll step at
basic problems first. If that was a huge benefit, we can go to step two. Hmm.
a. Mhm. English is not my first language, and I can personally attest, having worked with languages my whole life, that it takes a lifetime to truly master a language, and that I still come across words I never heard before
Hmm.
after decades of using English and only English and dreaming in English and all of that. There's still words I don't understand sometimes. And the more specialized the subject matter is, the more holes I will have.
Hmm.
The other day there was this butterfly in my yard that I knew wasn't a monarch, but it
Hmm.
was something else that I'm like, I should know what this is called. And I knew it in my native language. I didn't know it in English. It was really interesting.
Well, I only know monarchs,
Um,
so you beat me.
it speaks to the whole, it really takes a lot of learning. But in any language, right? If you're native in English, you're still learning. Your whole life you're learning.
Oh,
So
goodness.
um,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah. So if a company wants to cultivate a globally more competent workforce
Mhm.
and they just don't know where to start, like how to wrap their arms around this, and what is the first step that they should think of?
Well, I'll tell you, we've had one client now for over a decade, and they started with 3 employees. And so
Mm-hmm.
they started with a small project in Texas, and they had sent 3 employees to start that project. And so they said, all right, let's give this a try for 6 months with these 3 employees. If the employees report back and everything goes well with management for those 3, we'll grow it a little bit more. I encourage companies not to start big, to make sure that it's a match with the
Mm-hmm.
company, with the language training company that you're working with. Even when companies
Mm-hmm.
come to me and say, I want to start at 7 locations with 300 employees, I say, can we start at 1 location with 4 classes? We
Mm-hmm.
want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us and make
Mm-hmm.
sure that this course is exactly how you want it. And it's good to
Mm-hmm.
just try it at a very small sample, and then you can always expand. Always.
Right. So start small,
Very.
reevaluate, adjust the sales if you need to, and then keep building on the success of starting small, really.
Yes. Save a lot of money that way, I believe. And you make sure that it's the right match for your company. That company that started
Right.
with 3, now there's 250 employees taking language classes. So over 10 years. And so just start small to make sure that they match with your culture and your expectations. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How do you find people to teach? How do you find enough resources if you're teaching either online or in person, pretty much anywhere?
Hmm.
That takes an army, right?
It does. We have had, how do I say it, just really progressively incremental growth year after
Mm-hmm.
year. So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, we never really have more than, 5 projects that we're starting at a time. So, there's a process, there's just a step by step process for getting a new client started. And so, we hire if we don't have someone in that area, because you can't hire and then there's no work. So
Right, right,
we
right.
we hire according to our step-by-step process to make sure they are a fit for Fluency Corp, and
Mhm,
really go from there. But I think a really big misconception is, oh, you're in Dallas, so it's easier for
mhm,
you to hire in the US. There is no difference in the process for hiring in Tokyo, Madrid, or Dallas. It's
mhm,
all the same because we are so global now. There's just it's just as easy. Yeah.
mhm. Where do you see the future of language learning going? And also, I would be really amiss if I didn't ask you this. How does AI affect what you do
Of course.
or will?
Of course. This is what everyone is talking about right now, and I will say I gave it a try. I was so bored, I could not even continue. You have to tell the AI what to do. Yes, if I wanted to tell the teacher what to do all day, this would be lovely. I
Mhm,
personally think most of this comes from connection. I think it's fine to practice a little bit, but it's like a Nintendo Wii for practicing tennis. How do you practice tennis without playing tennis?
mhm, mhm,
Will anything ever substitute playing tennis for getting better at tennis? I don't know how you would do that unless, there's a thing that connects to our body in our sleep and we're doing this in our sleep. I don't know, you know? And so that's kind of how I feel. Someone told me a few months ago that AI was going to close down my business in 10 years. And this is not me being unrealistic. because I don't think tennis has shut down since the Nintendo. So,
No, language is one of the most personal things out there and one of the most emotionally things when you have a conversation with someone and you use the language. It's you cannot replace it with an app talking
sorry,
or
I tried. I was so excited and ready to be open, bored out of my mind within
Mhm,
10 minutes.
mhm.
I mean,
So far so good, you know. I tell people we use AI in what we do, but we do it in order to augment our own capacity. We use it for specific tasks. We use it. It helps us. We learn to utilize it to become more efficient or faster or control things better, like consistent terminology, let's say. But
yes.
we don't let AI drive, and we are nowhere near that. It always includes qualified, educated humans as part of the process.
And
And
and we use AI for so many things as well.
mhm,
And I should
mhm,
specify AI for doing helpful things, study things, supplements, totally great when there is
mhm,
no real person. But to get true progress in speaking a language, in order to speak it with real people, you have to practice with a real person. Yeah.
yeah, I agree. Well, Micah, thank you so much for
You.
making the time today to chat with me for a little bit. We have different businesses, but we're basically in the same industry or similar industry. If you look at it from the standpoint of language, which is great. I've known you for quite a bit now, and I was excited when you accepted the invitation to come today and chat with me a bit.
Me too.
So, thank you. All the best to you and Fluency Corp. And we will keep in touch, I'm sure.
Always.
Thank you, Micah.